welcome here at the festival, and thank you for making this film. My first question would be, well, for me this film is about how modernity and old traditions, even magic, can coexist in a modern society. And if I understand correctly, both you, Zoe, and Alessandra have a background in anthropology. Can you tell us a little bit about how you exactly found this topic and how is it related to your studies?
Yeah, we both have, well, all three also Greta. We're quite an anthropological team in that sense. And originally, when we first went to this region, Alessandra, who's unfortunately not here, she kind of instigated it. We decided to make a project together, and she said, Eastern Siberia is really interesting and really overlooked, and it's known primarily for this like Vach magic traditions, but when it's depicted, it's often depicted in this very kind of othering or spooky or exoticizing way, and so that was our first point of interest, was sort of witchcraft in the modern life, and especially the position of women. Is it still predominantly a female role? So we were interested in what that means for the society, that you have these kind of figures of knowledge and whatever. And then we met Dragon, and we threw all of that out the window, basically. So we really started from this magical perspective, but then kind of spending more time with the protagonists and getting to know them and trying to understand the context, then it became clear that it's actually impossible to separate them. The context and the traditions, they're intertwined, and they're impossible to divide, and they're having such an influence on each other. So that then became the core of the film. Actually, we realized that's what's interesting, is realizing how connected everything is.
I thought this idea that this black magic still exists, I think it was completely astonishing. What can we know about this? I'm thinking about how it, why is it so, how could it remain for so long in this tradition? What is the reason behind that? I mean, there was a socialist era in Eastern Serbia and also modernism. What can be the reason behind how this tradition remained for so long?
Let me know if you want to jump in. But I think, for one thing, this is a very marginalized area. So kind of with every new geopolitical system, in a way, it kind of gets left on the sides anyway. And I think it's never fully assimilated into any one particular political system in that sense, and it's maybe less affected because of that. I'm sorry that Alessandra isn't here, because she's kind of better informed as the native Serbian, but I feel like, from what I've learned from her, is that magic is quite mainstream throughout the Balkans, but this is viewed as a very specific kind. It's viewed as a very powerful kind, which gives it, again, this kind of double-edged situation of being kind of respected but also feared, and kind of then increasing the sense of marginalization in a way. And I think one of the things we've tried to work on in the past, and I think we'll continue to work on, is also the diaspora community from the Balkans is also heavily into this magic, in a way like the diaspora actually keeps it quite strongly alive. And I think magic is, we view it as this very historical thing. We always have these kind of ideas of medieval imagery or whatever, but I mean, actually it adapts also to modernity, like it finds a way to stay relevant. People make it relevant.
There are many very interesting characters in this film. Was it easy to approach them with your idea?
Yeah, yes and no. They were super easy to be approached. They were very, very open from the beginning. They kind of adopted us and took us in. I think they didn't understand what we were doing until they finally saw it, because I guess this kind of, this particular style of documentary is not something that they really had been very exposed to. So they didn't really understand. I mean, it took us many years to film. And they didn't really understand like they were always asking us, like, haven't finished yet? And, you know, when we're trying to film sort of daily life stuff, they're like, why is this interesting? But they always went along with it. And at some point, we tried to, like, show them the rough cut so that they would have an idea, and then they just reacted like it was like a family holiday movie or something, and then they were super excited that, you know, they realized, oh, actually we've had like a private cinematographer following us around for years. But then when we had the premiere in Belgrade and they came, then I think they understood it finally, and they were happy, no?
Yeah, but so what I wanted to add is just they were happy to be with us and be filmed, but they were not always happy to talk about magic on camera. That was very hard to do, and many things were not necessarily included always, because they're still very stigmatized. And of course, like what I wanted to also add about the magic question is, it is primarily a black magic, so and it's not that open, in the sense that even in the community, they still feel the need to do it quietly, to not be seen negatively by the community there. And for this reason, it was at times hard to film very magic-related activities. And even we have months in which we couldn't really film going back in the forest and things like this.
My next question goes to you, Greta. As a producer, what was your main idea coming into this film?
Well, I came in this film by complete chance, by accident, because I was very much tricked into it. I think there was a spell put on me at some point. So because the first time I went to Mindapec was to do a short film, which we did together in 2017, I think, about witchcrafting. And then I don't know exactly how I became producer of the film. It just happened. All of a sudden I was doing applications. But I went in we were basically, the shorts we've been doing are in the same region, with the same community somehow. So it felt like working already on Flotacija while doing that short film. I didn't really have expectations, so I was literally dragged into it. I was doing a short film with Alessandra here in Budapest before. So she was like, you need to come to this one. And I was like, okay. I think as a visual anthropologist myself, my role as a producer was not only as a producer, in a sense. I think when we work anthropologically, we need to have small teams in which we all take responsibility of the research part of it. And I think that's why I guess I ended up working on the project, because I could also do that. I could be part of that.
I think this film has a very much of a bittersweet feel to it, because on one hand it's very funny because there are many comic characters, but on the other hand it's quite sad actually, and it has this empty feel to it. Did you have a main tone coming into the film, like it's going to be a comedy or much like a drama?
I think in that sense the tone was really set the minute that we chose the protagonists. I think, I don't know, I mean, it's also, I guess, I always joke that Alessandra is the sociable one and I'm like the more, I don't know, visual one. So I think that you can see this in the film, that that there's this kind of duality of sort of more abstract, simple visuals, and then like very densely personal, dialogue-based, and I think that's kind of also, it's reflecting the characters, that's how they were. It also took us some time to find like the best way to talk to the characters. I mean, as I said before, they didn't really understand this kind of classical observational way of filmmaking, and we realized actually the scenes were more interesting when they kind of brought us in. But I think, like, especially with Dessa, I mean, we fell in love with her. We met her, I think we'd already been filming for 1 year because she'd been living away and she moved back. And yeah, we just absolutely fell in love with her, and we realized, okay, the minute that we introduced her, then there was this humorous tone that had to be there. But I mean, this I think is kind of the core of the film, is you know, you keep living life and you keep trying to find joy even when you live in this terrible place that's literally like the ground is falling from underneath your own feet.
you pretty much answered my next question, but nevertheless, it's quite rare when a film has two directors at the same time. And was it an easy thing for you to collaborate as directors of the film? And yeah, pretty much.
Oh, I don't know. I also feel like this is a loaded question, being the only one here to answer that.
But you made the pretty nature shots.
I made the pretty nature shots. I mean, well, it's also so complicated by the fact that Alessandra had a child. You know, with this film it took us like 8 years from start to finish, and she had a kid in the middle of it. So there was also kind of shifts of intensity. I mean, we weren't working full time on the film, and we, you know, both had different priorities at different times. Yeah, I hope in the end that this kind of dual influence. I don't know. You're gonna.
Can give the third perspective of someone who witnessed the two directors working together since 2017 when I started the project with them. I think what really made it possible is the fact that the two of them have a different personality and different approach to film. And Alessandra was always, she was the Serbian, right, who brought everyone there. She was the native speaker, and she was the one on which the relationships were initially based. So as a team, we were very dependent on her to be there and make things happen, because it was very hard for the rest of us to get them to want to do things if she wasn't there. She was very influential. She was literally a doctor to everyone. But I think as she had to step out because of her pregnancy and then taking care of the child, I think Zoe also, because her Serbian improved very much throughout the time we worked on this film, managed to do that, to step back into it. And I think the different moods of the film are also justified by the different people filming. There's a lot of people who filmed this project, like the cinematographer list is quite long. But I think, in a sense, becoming adopted by the family, which took forever, made it possible for both of you to do the same eventually. I kind of blabbed towards the end, I lost track.
I think it's time to turn for the audience, if you have any questions about the film. Yes?
Was there any scene that you have to cut out, or for any reason?
I think not for any kind of ideological or personal reason. I think, as Greta said, we had a lot of negotiation before shooting what they were and weren't willing to show. So then so the most complicated character was Spele, the son. Because he was kind of the most, I guess, media aware, and he was the most, he had the best understanding of what it meant to be filmed and to be represented. So it kind of depended on his mood, and this was very much a case that the many years that we spent filming, I think, helped with him, because we became much closer to him over the years, but also he grew a lot. You know, when we met him, he was this kind of basically a teenager still, and he's like smoking weed and getting up to antics, and then he had, you know, his kids, and he became this family man, and then he, you know, finally goes into the mine himself. And I think it took a while with him before he trusted us, but he finally did, and he was the one we like offered to show them everything before we finished the film. With him, we sent him, I think, basically all the scenes he's in, and he gave us permission. Everyone else kind of was like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. But I think, as Greta said, it was much more. There were things that we weren't able to film like at all, but there was nothing that we filmed that then we had to take out again.
How did you decide on the name of the movie?
I decided on the name of the movie, and I've been I don't know, it's like an instinct thing, almost, not totally from the beginning, almost from the beginning. I think we had, like the first title was like Vach Magic, which I was like, ugh. And then the second title was Dragon Hunt, and I was like, ugh. I don't know, we struggled basically throughout. I mean, I don't know, I seem to always struggle having titles that work like in the native language and in like an international context. And I don't know, Flotacija for me, like, it was really, it had a very strong influence on me, well, first going there and filming it, but also the way everybody spoke about it. And most people haven't been inside the mine except for the mine workers, and there's this kind of mystical aura around it, and the way people would speak, and the fact that we went there also gave us a lot of credibility, and everybody was like, oh, you've been to Flotacija, and everybody's asking us. I don't know, it just became like somehow this like magical word that I realized like that people invented their own meaning for it. It's like totally divorced from like what it actually is, and it's really somehow this meeting point of industry and magic. It's this sort of sacred space that's also, it's like sacred but profane because it's also the most deadly part of the whole process. And so for me, I don't know, it made sense, but yeah, I don't know how clear it is to anyone, but we never found anything better, basically.
Good title.
Yeah, but for years we were going around markets and doing pitches and things like that, and everyone was like, this is a horrible title, you have to change it. And we're like, yes, we will. Clearly didn't.
Yeah, everybody wanted us to have a title with dragons in it, but then, I don't know, we also didn't want to like disappoint. In the end, it's not a film about dragons, it's a film about, you know, these people in this context. And we didn't want to lure people in on with false promises of dragons. And also, it's hard to make a like dragon title that doesn't sound really cheesy or Game of Thronesy. So.
Do you think it's easy to make a film like this if, for instance, you do not believe in this type of thing at all?
I don't know why you would make this film if you. I mean, I don't know. We always had a strict policy. Everybody also asks us throughout the years, do we believe in dragons? And our answer has always been like, it doesn't matter what we believe. The important thing is what they believe. And we treat what they believe with total respect, and we never questioned it. You know, it's a film about their beliefs. It's not supposed to be putting it to the test or anything. And yeah, I don't really know why you would bother to make this film if you wanted to undermine them in any way. I think, yeah.
Did you have a chance to screen it in the city, to the other?
Not yet. We still need to. I was literally talking to the other producer about that yesterday. That we need to do it. And we were discussing because I'm really impatient to do it. But Milos made the point that there's probably nowhere with heating, so we probably have to wait until spring now.
Yeah, we wanted to do a screening maybe in the stadium. There's like an open where they sometimes have screenings. Ideally, a long time ago, we wanted to use this film to renovate the cinema there, but I think that was maybe a bit too ambitious. But we're definitely gonna do a screening there, yes.
They get what happened with the main characters or with the 1,300 people in the movie who have the houses, basically their flats, still owned by a third party.
Well, nothing really happened yet. No? It's still very much in progress. It's still very much fought for. It's still very much unclear what's going. They're trying to mobilize two lawyers. Basically, what's happening in the film, it's still going on.
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I know. Well, yeah, we don't really know how to answer this question. So basically, Dessa died. That's the big news. She died a couple of months after we had the premiere. And then in the end, the family clubbed together to buy the flat for her daughter. So in that sense, yeah. So now we have a new agenda, which is the shitty health service there, because I mean, she had a cancer that should have been found years ago, and wasn't, because yeah, it's so infrastructurally poor in that area. So yeah, so kind of that individual story, in a sense, came to a point, but for the rest of the time, as Greta said, it's just same struggle keeping going.
Okay. if there are no more questions, then I still have one, which is kind of a general question regarding if there is one thing that you would like from the audience, not necessarily from here, but in general, to take away from this movie as, you know, a message. That what would it be? Is it even something that you can answer? Because a no is also not an answer in this case.
I think the message I would like everyone to take, and I think it's the message I took with me from spending all this time with them, is that we need to somehow learn to be joyful and find the beauty and the comedy and the happiness and the love despite what's going on. And I think for us, especially coming from, you know, better places, I guess, going to Mennebrek was always a shock. It was like, how is it possible to live in such a horrible place? But then the reaction was of showing us how it's possible to live, of trying to find a way of making it work and do it without necessarily complaining and, you know, whining as maybe we would do often. And I think through the use of magic and the system of belief, they really learned to find a way to cope, and they did it in a joyful way, in a way that managed to keep together the family. And I think that that's very important.
I think that's better than what I was going to say. I totally agree, and
We have the same answers for it.
it's such a good team. I mean, also consistently throughout this whole filming process, Dragan has given me the life advice that I should be more like Tessa, which I think is good advice, and I should actually start applying it. But I don't know. I mean, it's a very wishy-washy, cheesy answer, but I think just this kind of, even though, you know, it's such a very particular, unique place, I think this universalism of everybody going through the same shit, and you know, this is this tiny place that's impossible to get to in the middle of nothing, but I think their lives are important and have value, and I think there's, you know, they're going through many of the same things that many other places and many other contexts are, and I mean, yeah, my idealism was always to try and use this film as a way to bridge communities facing similar issues and trying to kind of come together to solve something. I don't know that we're actually going to do it with the film, but I guess I just want people to care about this place, even if they forget it again after the screening, you know, that for 70 minutes they think that these people's lives have value.
Well, I wish you a good luck for the afterlife of this film and also your future projects. And thank you very much for this Q&A.
Thank you very much for having us.